Madam President, as the chair of the full committee on appropriations, I rise today to comment on this bill, but also to thank and acknowledge the really important role that Senators Murray and Collins have played. Really, it has been the way the Senate should operate. They've held extensive hearings at the subcommittee on America's needs on transportation and ever piling up backlog that we need to address, and it would accomplish several good agreed upon public policy goals. Number one, safety, because when we're talking about roads, bridges, and the other infrastructure things in this bill, safety is our number one priority. Number two, when you're building or repairing a bridge in Maryland, Maine, Washington State, or North Dakota, those people are working in the United States of America. And hopefully the supply chain involved in whether it's asphalt to steel is made in good old USA. So what we would do is improve the safety rates and lower the unemployment rate, and at the end of the day have something to show for it. So much of the American people are frustrated with us when it comes to spending because they think if they give us $1, we'll spend $2 and not have a spit to show for it. But yet in this bill, at this time, we have really a legislative framework and a restrained fiscal framework to be able to move on important transportation infrastructure needs and on housing. The appropriate role for the federal government to be involved in housing. Those things that are involved in, number one, promoting economic development in blighted areas, regardless of whether you're in an urban state or a rural state. The needs of North Dakota are different than the needs of Maryland. And even in my very dear state of Maryland, we have different needs in different parts of the state. The robust Baltimore corridor, which is more urban, requires one set of frameworks, say for the community development block grant money. But if you go to Garrett County in the western part of my state that was hit by a blizzard during Hurricane Sandy, or you go down to the eastern shore, Somerset County, that was hit by a hurricane, literally flooded to dangerous proportions during Hurricane Sandy, those two counties have as high of a poverty rate as Baltimore City. So when we talk about the great things in this bill, what I like about it is it's money that will come for local needs. The needs of Garrett County and Somerset County are different than the needs of Baltimore City. But what we do know is that we need jobs, and we need to be able to address the needs of the people who want to be middle class and are looking for an opportunity to get there, and also for the compelling needs, particularly of the elderly and disabled. And again, we in the Senate know, because we're urban and rural and suburban, you meet different needs according to the locale. In Baltimore City, it's a high concentration of elderly in certain areas, and we can meet those needs through a combined effort of housing, Meals on Wheels, helping people be able to have coordinated services to keep them independent and healthy. Well, you get to the rural parts, that's even harder. So what I like about this bill is it's really, first of all, focused on rebuilding America. You know, I so salute our troops. We've been in a 10-year war, and the consequences of that war will be felt by the men and women who served and the taxpayers who have to pay it for many years to come. But as we look at this, what they fought for is for America. Now we have to think about rebuilding America. I'm glad we gave it a try in Iraq. Okay, and we gave it a try in Afghanistan. But come home, America. You know, as the troops come home, and hopefully the money comes back home, we begin to show results there. And if we rebuild our infrastructure, focus on compelling human needs, I think we will not only serve the nation well, but people will begin to have trust in us, that through smart approaches, restrained budgetary, restrained spending, that we can get there. I'm proud of what this bill does in Maryland. It does create jobs. It helps with infrastructure. This bill is really absolutely crucial to Maryland. First, the THUD bill provides $40 billion for highways and nearly $9 billion for mass transit. We need that. This means that Maryland will receive in fiscal year $700 million. Now, we're not waiting only for the federal government. The Maryland General Assembly recently increased the gas tax, very controversial because of our compelling needs. And Governor O'Malley and our General Assembly wanted to rise to the occasion, but they want us to rise to the occasion as well. As we look at some of these projects, they affect not only the state of Maryland, but they affect the region and the nation. Madam President, you weren't here when we had a horrific accident in 2009 at the Metro. The Metro was a terrible crash. Brakes failed, safety systems failed, a lot failed. 9 people lost their lives. And what we said that we were going to create a safety culture and turn to our National Transportation Safety Board to be able to do it. I made 2 promises to the families that I would do everything I could to see what were appropriate federal safety standards and to put money in the federal checkbook to improve that safety. I demanded reforms at Metro from management to a culture of safety. So where are we now? Well, guess what? We have put money in the federal checkbook for $150 million to continue to buy the important crash-worthy cars that or crash-resistant cars that will be able to help them. The money will be used for its signal improvement, rail car maintenance, and make sure that we are improving this. Safety is a #1 obsession with me. In addition to working on Metro, I know this bill deals with FAA's Contract Tower program, a subject of much debate during last year's continuing funding resolution. I remember real debate with Senator Moran on how we could keep those airports open. You know, they're the first to be hit by sequester. I've got 5 of them. They're in communities called Easton. By the way, Vice President Cheney uses it to land because he has not Cheney, excuse me, Rumsfeld. Rumsfeld's down there, and Cheney would come by as well. The Frederick Municipal Airport that the president uses periodically for coming to Camp David, Hagerstown, Martin, and Salisbury and Ocean City. These towers are important for 2 reasons: national security and economic security. So we're looking at how we can make sure we keep these towers open so airports can come and land safely and take off safely and aid the commerce to our communities. But Madam President, you've heard me also speak about housing and community development. You know, when I got started in Congress, we had something called revenue sharing. It was started by President Nixon so that local communities would get a formula-based funding to help them rebuild their communities or strengthen them in the area of economic development. Well, that changed, that ended during the Gingrich era, but we came up with community development block grant money. That's, again, that money that comes locally to meet local needs. And the criteria are eliminate blight, improve employment opportunities, and be able to create a sustainable infrastructure that you won't need government subsidies so that the community can be able to sustain itself and build on that to create jobs. We're very impressed about this. And again, this legislation meets needs for seniors and housing. Madam President, I could go on about it, but this bill is a very important accomplishment for the state of Maryland. And when I talk about safety, I noted the Portman Amendment. I note the Senator Cardin has an amendment on a report on the highway deck. I just want to say something else. We had some tough things happen in my state over the last couple of days on the Bay Bridge. Many of the people in this Senate traveled the Bay Bridge, some to go to their states. You know, we're next door neighbors with our pals from Delaware, Senators Carper and Coons. We represent the Delmarva Peninsula, a wonderful peninsula. We hope you come over sometime and actually see real water of oceans and rivers and crabs and so on, as a gentle lady from North Dakota. But this bridge, we now have 2 of them because of the volume. And then second, the way people travel on it, the velocity is increased. And last Friday, we had a terrible situation where a truck tailgated a passenger vehicle and pushed it off the bridge. Off the bridge. The car fell 40 feet. Thank God. The passenger survived. A young lady who the impact was so hard, the glass in the door broke, so she was able to get out, and she's a fitness instructor, so she had the robust and physical vigor to be able to swim to safety. We thank God for her survival and so on, but we are now scared on the Bay Bridge. Yesterday, we had another head-on collision on the bridge. Now, the AAA Association, the American Automobile Association, has called upon the National Transportation Safety Board to review the conditions on our bridge. Are the barriers high enough? Should we be using two-way traffic now to alleviate the traffic jams because transportation is changing? In other words, very important questions related to safety. Do we need another bridge? Analysis needs to happen. If we build another bridge, should it be there or further down south? Controversy, but again, analysis. Madam President, I cite that example because as I review the facts in this case and consult with the state, I too am considering joining with the American Automobile Association to ask for NTSB to review the accidents on the bridge and give us recommendations in terms of what we need so that it doesn't happen again. You can't fall 40 feet. It could have been somebody elderly. There could have been babies in that car. It doesn't matter. You cannot fall 40 feet off a bridge being tail-ended by a truck and think it's okay. You can't have a head-on collision and think it's okay. I don't think it's okay about what's happening on the Bay Bridge. I now want to work with my governor and consider what are the best steps forward, but as of today, I'm very strongly recommending a review by the National Transportation Safety Board to look at it. And it's not only what's happening in Maryland, it's what's happening all over America. So I know I see on the floor the gentleman from Oklahoma. I'm going to yield the floor so that others can speak. But before I do, I just again want to compliment Murray and Collins and the way that they've been moving this bill. I think it's an important one, and I note the absence of a quorum.